All right. So this is funny because Sabrina and I have been trying to do this for so long. She's in Brussels and I'm in Maine, the state of Maine in the northeast US. And yeah, it's funny how many times we try to do this live. So we decided we're going to do it pre-recorded the way we are now. And part of what's so interesting about our connection is that when she first reached out to me, the very first email, it said guest on I can't even pronounce it, Sology One Studios, from self mastery to light mastery. And then it said, I am embodied and nervous system coherence. So to me, it looked like she had a podcast and she was reaching out to invite me to do it. And the more I read through her email, I was like, wow, she's on it. You know, she's making things happen. And the funny thing is that Solology is a guy named Todd Medina. And I hadn't heard from him in a while. And so when Sabrina reached out to me with Soology One Studios, I figured this was like the next evolution of it. And so we went back and forth, and then we decided we were going to talk before we did a live stream. We were both laughing because she thought I had a podcast, and I thought that she did. We were just like, oh my God. And so we were like, okay, well, there are no random coincidences. Everything happens for a reason or not, you know. Sometimes the reason, the energy is like, so sure that your experience of random coincidences have really profound meaning. Sometimes they don't seem like they mean much at all. But so we're on this call, we're talking, laughing, and I was like, well, what do you do? She explained how she works with all these threads, or she'll get into it in a second here. And I said, yeah, do it with me. And so within moments, she did a reading, I guess you could say, a health reading. And she tuned right in to the place where I have the most issues in my body. I mean, instantly got it. So we were like, all right, we got to bring her work out and share it with the world. And that's what this is. Anyway, so here, Sabrina, tell everybody who you are, what you do.
Hi, I'm Sabrina, and I'm the founder of Enlightenment Codes. So I actually guide people in their core blockages. And with time, I moved from human blockages to soul blockages to now primordial pre-form blockages. So this means that when the soul expresses the wish to exist, because we are here because we wished it, then we kind of move through the mouth of creation into a realm it moves in group consciousness, and very often already there is already separation, trauma. There are scars that the soul can get lost because it doesn't make its own decisions. And so from these pre-form levels, there is trauma, and I tune into those levels to take the trauma that we experience as humans by its root. So that's what I do. And I like it.
Well, like I said, you did it so fast with me. It's almost like instant, it seemed like. So how are you able to do that with such precision?
I think anyone could do it if there is a level of release that has taken place so that there's no more blurring the inner vision. I think this is something that's very natural. Anyone could do. And because I noticed that my readings became more and more refined, the more I went through my own, how shall I say, I over time, the last years, I stopped reaching out to other people for help because I hit a ceiling and I started to create my own things, just like you are doing now with your vibrant health modality. And going through them myself, for me, that cleared everything. And I think I trained myself to do that. So I think it's something, it's inherent to who we are.
It's like quantum knowing. It's in us, it is us, it's always there, but we don't remember how powerful we are until we start to do it. That's what it seemed like with me, the way you did that. And, the fascinating thing is, and I don't know, I'm sure you might agree with this to some level, but it seems like people are starting to do this now more than ever. Not in huge numbers, obviously, but there are individuals like yourself and others who are just like evolving faster than the speed of light, is one way of saying it. Right? Is that what you feel? Or
well, I think so, because a couple of years ago, I tended to light travel, and I saw that the realms, in the higher dimensions of Earth, I was traveling with a group. I was doing a retreat, and I was light traveling with a group, and I saw the beings said, "Come for a minute. We need to show you something." And they showed me that certain light retreats, they were descending, and so they explained that the higher dimensions of this Earth, which means the light body, it's collapsing. And so when these higher dimensions start to collapse and fall onto Earth, we are in those frequencies, and they are, as you say, moving at the speed of light, or at least I think 10 minutes there is 3 weeks here. So time accelerates enormously. And so I think, people are really going through a major acceleration.
tell me, so what brought you into this? Like, what was let's start from the beginning. When you were born into this world and you started to be able to perceive reality and have a way to identify with or process information, when did that happen for you? And how did it bring you to this?
Oh, that's a huge question.
Even bits and pieces.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't know if that's a response to what you're asking me, is that I actually didn't want to be here. So already in the womb, I was kind of trying to de-evolve. So I think that's maybe the basic imprint for me to start knowing that I needed to do this, and I couldn't de-evolve. I couldn't unwind my body. And then, I actually had quite a normal childhood, but I always felt life was superficial. I couldn't find myself. And so I did a lot of courses, and I love doing readings. I'm a trained reader. I did a 4-year education in reading and healing. And then I was a Merkaba teacher. That's where I did the light traveling. I worked with Johan van Leer in the Netherlands. He has an Aurora spiritual center, and I love that too. But then I also felt, well, I did that, I think, maybe 7 years, but I felt I'm not embodied. I'm working with I don't know, with fears around me, but I feel I'm still seeking. And that's when I started to look around and ask for other types of guidances. And then I just downloaded. I just sat down. I was always heavy here. So strange. It seems I had some discs. And so I was heavy, and then I just sat down, and then it came. So I kind of initiated myself, and then the ball started rolling.
So wait, just to clarify, you said you remember that you didn't want to come into this world, or you did?
I had to. What I remember is I always had a little bit of difficulty with people obliging me to do something. I never knew why that was. I always enjoyed and preferred my freedom. But then I did a regression. It's a long time ago. I did a regression, and I was born 6 weeks too early, and I was very skinny and underweight, so I had to lie separately. And then in the regression, I saw a whole circle of white light beings, and they said, "Well, you have to stay here. You cannot go back." And also when
this is as a baby, a child?
Yeah, newborn.
You knew this messaging then. You heard it, you knew it, you felt it.
As a baby, I heard it, but I didn't remember it until I did a regression. Yeah. Yeah. And then I also did one when I was in the womb of my mother. And there I clearly felt I do not want this. Because, when you enter a womb as a seed, you attach yourself to the womb itself. And at that moment, what I felt was there was this train of emotions of my mom going through me. And for me, that was blowing my body. So at that point, I said, I can't take this. It's too strong.
So as you became this person, this being, what do you perceive is happening now? And and only answer this if you can, don't worry, if not, we can mention something else, but what do you perceive happening to us as a species now or in the immediate future? Is there going to be any positive or healthy change, or are we going to go through some harsh, rude awakenings? Sorry, I know it's not funny, but it's
how I perceive it? It's as if, and I was talking with someone about it yesterday. So it's as if we are on this spiral of time, right? And we are just above the same time of the epoch of Atlantis. So we are kind of in that same period of power. But now we have the ability within this time frame to choose the timeline we want to be in. So for instance, people choose a higher timeline, so they don't have to go through that Atlantic period, because when they were at the time in Atlantis, they already understood that it was not okay, the power over, power under games, and they learned everything. So those people now have the consciousness to see the truth. Those who don't are remained in that same vibration. That's how it comes to me, And then we and others, we can choose any kind of timeline that we want to be in. We don't touch it. It's like we ski over it, We can see it, we perceive it, but we are not sad by it. We don't let our energy go down by it. We are just witnesses. And so, to answer your question, I think there are many people now going through ascension processes and to never come back again. That's what I think.
like bodhisattva type stuff, or
Yeah, but I feel that ascension processes, how I live them, even physically, it's for me often it's the body, it's pain and it's emotions releasing, etc. That's what I have gone through. It's not easy, and so I sometimes, I don't know what you think, but I sometimes have the idea that people think that as soon as they start to awaken, that life immediately is light and love and easy, but I don't perceive it that way. I haven't gone through it in that way. I really needed to translate it into my life, into relationships and boundaries, in what I want and releasing what I don't want. And I didn't find that very easy.
well said. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how many people talk about love and light, and now that quote unquote spirituality is like this popular thing now. Like, you know, I don't know why, but I was like thinking of this quote, it just kept coming to me. It's kind of funny, but it's not at all. And I was thinking, you know what? Western spirituality is almost just like Eastern spirituality, except for it doesn't have the heart and the soul. And I know it's crazy to think like that, but that's kind of what it's like. All these people are beginning to wake up and they're embracing the parts of Eastern spirituality of like thinking, wow, it's enlightenment and all of that stuff. But it's like there's countless layers, levels, and dimensions that we're all connected to. And yeah, we can build these like incredible life experiences and learn how to love life, but that other stuff is still there. And it requires that we eventually face it. It doesn't go away. In my experience, it might, you know, like you said, with people who are going through this ascension process, or whatever, to never come back. Actually, can you explain more about that? Because it's a fascinating topic.
Well, it's as you say, diverse, because there are so many levels. So we can do a linear ascension, and we can, retract ourselves from the earth, and even as a bodhisattva, just be around her for support and guidance, but no longer be embodied here. Or, and that's what I'm doing with the group I'm working with, is we retract all fractals of the soul, and we retract it into each time a higher type of consciousness, but embodied. So actually, we call back all fractals through this cosmos, source field, all the other cosmoses, throughout the creational worlds, the worlds beyond, without form. So really bringing them all back. So this means, I think it is what I was doing in the womb. I was trying to go back. And I think now that I'm talking to you, I think I have found a way to do it. But fully embodied, in full acceptance, in having found a deep love for life and for being here.
Yeah.
But now saying, okay, I want to retract everything, and I want to go back to that formless state. Because what I saw, and I find it very interesting, when I was working with the people, I saw that, when you go into the worlds of form where we are in, and also, well, this cosmos and all its dimensions and other cosmoses, these are worlds of light and shadow. It means of development. Things are always developing, blooming, But in the worlds of light, there's just, it's infinite, and it's just light. And so what I found is that if you retract yourself from the worlds of form, and maybe this is a bit abstract, but then you
do it.
No, it's okay. And you go into the formless. What you do is you can create infinitely. because actually when I went to that level, what I felt and what we all felt was we were disappointed about what we created. We created the worlds of light and shadow because we wanted to see how things could bloom, like an apple tree throughout seasons, a blossoming field of trees that's just pure beauty. But then it seemed that, when you go through developments, a soul can get scared. It feels separated. It goes into power games, etc. And then you have this kind of darkness, but it's just fear, right? And that's what we no longer wanted. We say, okay, we don't want that type of creation anymore. So the foundations of it are changing, but I have decided that, when I drop my body, I'm going to go into the worlds of light, because that's supersonic. It's strange to say maybe, but there's no limit. And you keep creating new light. You keep creating new light consciousness that doesn't even exist. So that these are the, yeah. But what's your question again?
Well, I was wondering, but now it's leading me to this, because when you and I first talked,
yeah,
you were talking about, I don't know, like the fiber optics of, or like the tentacles, I think you called it.
The threads. I spoke about the light threads.
Yes, that's fascinating. I would love for you to talk more about that.
Well, me and you.
Mm-hmm. So when you did the reading for me,
yes,
you used that in some way. There was some part of it that you tapped into, and I think I said something to you like, it's the fabric of life, and you agreed. So what is that? Is it like a physical thing, like plasma, or is it just none of that? I mean, we know ultimately that everything is energy, but certain parts have a lot more form than others. Is that what you mean by that, or like what they are and how you work with it?
Plasma. It's not plasma. It's the architecture upon which plasma can, form itself on or attach itself. So for me, light threads is, when you read a human body, there are blockages, and then you keep working on it, and then those blockages clear, and then suddenly, out of the depths, this white light comes in the spinal column, in even the bloodstream. So the light starts to permeate, and then when that light permeates, that's when we release already quite a lot. So we release, you could say, the old human, and then you start to remember. You start to remember who you are. You're not your fear or your insecurity or your lack of discernment or whatever it is. You are that. And then as soon as that emergence of light comes, then that's in the body, and then light threads appear, so you connect with your outer sphere of light, and then you, as an emerald tablet, as within, so without. So this means you start to connect with your highest self, literally, and you start to remember a lot of what you were always seeking. You start to understand, well, I am all that I am. I am the I am presence. I am myself, but I'm also cosmos or the cosmic law, or I understand universal principles because I am made of it. It is my prima mater. So for me, the light threads is what connects us with our highest self, I would say. Yeah.
So when you tune in, because what you said, you noticed something in my gut, essentially. I'm trying to think of what part of it.
I can't remember exactly what I said.
Well, what about right now, if you tune in? Because actually, since we talked about that, I've been doing a lot of work, so it might be different.
Yeah.
But I'll just
But
want
I
me to
see that.
relax for a minute. Yeah.
So what I see is just below, for instance, in the region of the stomach, um, there is a release of sadness or a dimming of joy. It's releasing itself. It almost seems like a liver, but there's no liver here. So it must be just, a shape that is that you are releasing. But I feel a lot here on the rib cage and the chest and the breastbone, from our inner depth, a lot existential insecurity in relationships releasing.
Mm. And so that's like a newer perceptual realization about my current state. Is that what you mean? My current state of health? I know.
Health, physical health, I don't know. For me, it means more. If you, for instance, it seems to me that because if I watch underneath your chest, then I can see a light emerging, and that tells me that there is a deep wish that that light fully permeates, and that it also wants to permeate through the back, so in between the shoulder blades, and there's a deep wish to ground that in your pelvic floor, and to ground that into the earth and going into the earth's core. So it's as if you're exchanging a new way of living with the earth, exchanging it with the heart of the earth. And usually when I see that, it means you are redefining your earth contract as saying, I want to live here from my light. I do not want to identify myself anymore with emotions that I had. It is an ascension. It means that you're moving into ascension and redefining the earth contract.
So, all right, what's a contract, earth contract? I hear people talking about this, and I don't, all that I know, everything that I speak about comes just from experience. I've never read many books at all. I think I've read less than 10 books, cover to cover, in my life. And so I hear a lot of people talking about things, and some of them, it seems like it's book smarts. Then there's others where, it's wisdom. It's experiential. Like you experience what you know, and then you give voice to it. And so terms like earth contracts, there's a lot of talk of stuff like that. And I just don't have any idea what it means because, for instance, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people will say, you chose to come here. And it never made sense to me until kind of recently, to be honest with you. I remember not wanting to come here.
No.
Not ever feeling like I fit in to any of it. And for most of this life, it's been learning the hard way, through suffering and pain. But then I had an epiphany and I began to recognize myself in totality, you could say. And for the first time ever, I started remembering a lot of patterns of not necessarily wanting to come here, but to do it anyway, because we've all learned through pain, so much of it, but we can also learn through pleasure, through love, through all these elevated states of being that we all have in us. but that our species is just like doesn't even know it. So my question, I'm sorry to go off on a little tirade about it. What
Mhm.
does it mean to you when somebody says they chose to come here? And how does that tie into your work?
Actually, usually people say to me they never chose to come here. I have hardly had anyone telling me that they chose to come here. But when you were talking, I was remembering something, and you say, you know, the hard way and suffering, and that has been my journey too. And I like to talk with Isis and Mary Magdalene, you know, not that we really talk, but I feel them. And what they always explain to me, because I had that question too, why is this necessary? And they say, especially Isis, she incarnated on this earth many, many, many times. And she always shows me the image that she came back and went through the earth, through bedrock, and that bedrock, you know, like water, it shaped her, it refined her. And then the more and more you're refined, like light threads, they are very refined. The human body isn't really, you know, the emotions are not refined. But if you refine yourself and you release, then you become very, how shall I say, you become high frequent. I think that might be a good word. And then you can experience the joy and the bliss. So I just took it as it was, and I just accepted it. And so the earth contract for me is a bit connected to my story with Isis. Is that, and she's also a bodhisattva, and yeah. If you consider that there are so many planets and moons and suns, they all have a core heart and they all speak to each other. And we don't only come to Earth, we go to many, many, many places. Because I hear people, I read sometimes people that say, what is my origin? I am from, I don't know, Arcturus, or I am from the Pleiades. Yeah, maybe you've been there, you passed a lot of time, but we are in essence souls. So the earth contract, I think this is just a lovely place to be, and the energies are very dense. And for us, we wanted to come here because my dog is dreaming. Can you hear my dog?
I just for a little bit. Can you show the dog?
She's dreaming. I think she's hunting like a duck or something in her dreams. So we are here because the earth is very dense, and if we master density, if we are able into the descent of earth's frequencies to flip in those timelines and, you know, just fly over what's happening and see it and be compassionate and heal the necessary for what we can, because some things don't want to be healed. Some things need to be lived by many people. We can't just heal anything. Everyone has their own responsibility, right? So if we can stay in bliss, I think then that was my email to you. We move from mastery to light mastery. What did I write in my email to you?
Let me see. Well, that was the thing. You wrote all kinds of stuff, and that's part of why there was so much information. And to me, I took it like, wow, you know what you're doing, and that's why you have this podcast. And I thought that you recognized something like that in me. And that's why I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, finally, somebody who can speak and exist at a higher level with the ability to articulate it. So I only took a photo here, but yeah, you wrote so many incredible things, like wisdom-based knowing and things like that.
You know why? Because when I work with my groups, I integrate many sessions, weekly sessions. And so in these sessions, I watch how they move. And when you watch how all these souls move, going into, further and further ascension levels, then you just see a lot, and you together you experience a lot, and it's just a lot of fun. Yeah. It's very grateful work.
Mm. So you're learning how to heal and be present from a different type of frequency than that pain and suffering that so many of
Oh,
us.
we go through a lot of pain and suffering, but
Yeah.
we have to go through, because when you go through it, and you see that you're going through it, you can do it. Yeah, and that's again another level of mastery, because when you can do all that, then you understand your power, but then you also become very simple, because it's all very simple.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we finally could do this.
Me too.
We definitely put in some effort to make it happen. So
Thank you, Seth.
thank you, Sabrina. Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.